just for us to interrogate, to interview you tonight. And I've said this many times, everyone has a story. You know, God gave us a life, God gave us a story. And it's great when that story has its pinnacle coming to faith, and that's really what we're going to be talking about. Neill and I were chatting around your house, and we were sort of agreeing amongst ourselves that the testimony's not about, you know, all the bad stuff you did. It's about how you met the Lord and stuff like that. So since we're not going to talk about the bad stuff, we'll sing our final hymn.
Yeah, we don't want them all. We want to stay friends.
So, well, as I said, it's a conversation with you tonight, Neill. So, we're obviously you can't. No one's life can be skipped through in half an hour. But we're just going to talk a little bit about you tonight and look at some pictures. Where did I put that little remote bio? There it is. Would you just pass me that, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're going to talk about the early years to begin with then, and you were born?
Yes, I was born on the 20th of July 1975.
1975?
Yeah.
Can anybody not remember 1975? So you remember 1975, Sir Louise? Seriously? Yeah, there's a number of people here who obviously weren't born then, but then some of us were. So, and you were born where?
In the Ulster Hospital in Dundonald.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I grew up in Dundonald. Born and bred. Yeah.
So you're a Dundonald boy. I suppose you've been up the moat a few times then?
Just a few times. You were called maybe a few times too, because I was up the moat. Yeah. Teenagers.
And tell me a wee bit about the size you make up your family, brothers, sisters, mum, dad.
Yep, I have a mum and dad, and I have two siblings, a brother and a sister. I am the baby of the family, so the sister is the oldest, and then there's my brother, and then myself. Right,
so three of you. And your mum and dad, they're called?
Brian and Agnes Boreland.
Yeah. And they were, just look at a couple of pairs, I think.
Yeah.
A picture of your mum and dad here. Who's that?
That's my dad. That was in the Isle of Man, I think. Yes, I think that was actually just before he met my mum. Yes, he went over on a boys' holiday. Yeah, that's it, quite handsome. That's where I get my good looks from.
Yeah.
No.
Right. And there they are on their wedding day.
That's them on their wedding day, yes.
Did you enjoy that day, didn't you?
I did. It was a great day for me.
That's them on their... So, they were married then, and where were they married?
Oh, you're asking? I don't know.
You're not too sure?
I don't know. They met. I can tell you where they met. They met in a dance in Newton Ards, just across the road where. Oh man. Right. Okay.
Well, come back here.
Yeah.
But when did they find faith?
When I was one.
So, yeah.
Yes. When I was one, my mum got saved. And then my dad got saved after that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you were telling me that they, maybe particular dad, I'm not too sure, got fully involved in...
My dad, yes, got a big time involved in the youth. He had a real passion for youth work. They went to the Cumber Road Gospel Hall in Dundonald. Yeah. And he really had a passion for the youth. He would have drove the minibuses, he would have run camps and stuff like that. There was a thing called Teen Time. And there was also a Thursday children's meeting, and he was there.
Yeah.
Every meeting he was there.
So he would have been in his 20s then before he was saved? Or
yeah. Maybe 30 maybe actually. 30, yeah, coming 30, yeah.
Do you know, just as an aside, do you know anything about his story, how he found Jesus?
Yes, well, my mum got saved first. He used to go out... Oh, it was the other way round, sorry. See, by the way, Ronda's there, and I've told her to keep me right because my memory is really bad with dates and names, so you have to bear with me. Sorry, is the other way round? Sorry, okay. My dad got saved first. Yes, he used to go out drinking a lot in Dundonald. There was the old Dundonald Inn and stuff there. And he actually got talking to a guy called Roy Gibson, or not Roy Gibson, Roy Brennan. And they chummed around.
Oh yes, I know Roy.
Roy Brennan, yes. Well, they chummed around. They used to hang around together and stuff and go to dances. And I think they got saved around the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we went to Brooklands. I'm nearly sure it was Brooklands. And yeah, there was somebody preaching and he came home and that was
Marvellous.
it. Yeah.
We had many years ago, some of us will remember Roy Brennan's testimony. He was in a toilet and he saw a track lying on the floor of the toilet.
That's right, yeah.
God loves you.
Yes.
Never picked it up. And yet that just...
That spoke to him. Yeah, it's amazing how
Around the same
certain
time.
verses and certain things stick in your mind.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, and then they come back.
So you went to primary school in Dundonald,
Yes.
which was...
It was just normal, normal primary school. I was a normal
Dundonald
child.
Primary?
Yeah, Dundonald Primary at that. I think it's been redone now. I think it's all modernised. But
Yeah.
it was a wee small school back then.
Yeah, so, and then you moved on from there to...
The Boys High. I went to the Boys High. It was Dundonald Boys High. It is now Dundonald High School, but it was the Boys High then.
Because it amalgamated with the girls?
Yes, when I was in 5th year it amalgamated. Yeah.
And there's a story behind that we'll come to, Miller.
Yes.
Later on.
It's a blessing.
School, the boys' school, but we'll come to that later. So let's see, I think I might have another wee picture possibly here. That's your...
That's a mum and dad. My dad had Alzheimer's in that photo. But yeah, that was later on.
And there's your
That's
dad. He's a fine looking man. And he
passed away. Yes, I've got the dates because again I'm rubbish with dates. He passed away in 2021.
Yes,
with Alzheimer's. Yeah.
And he had Alzheimer's.
Yeah. It was it's a very difficult time going through Alzheimer's, I have to say, because his whole character changed, and he wasn't the man he was.
Yeah.
You know, it's a difficult for anybody that's going through it. It's a very, very difficult situation. So it is. Yeah.
Early years.
That's me in primary school.
Right.
So that is me right in the middle. Can you all see? Is it guessing? So I
Move the mouse to...
Yes, there's me there.
Is that you in the front row?
That's me, yeah.
With the girls?
It's cute as a button, right in between the girls.
Right, okay. That's you in primary school in the very good. That's lovely. So, anyway, in the high school then you, about 5th year is when the amalgamation, was it?
Yes. So...
Now, at school, do you remember meeting Ronda in school at all?
So, high school was a bit of a ups and downs for me. First year I went in to high school, I started getting bullied.
Yeah.
So it took a real tumble. Life just became awful, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You were afraid to be walking to school, you were afraid to come home, you were afraid in school. And even at night time, because of what was happening in school, you were afraid to go out. So first year for me was an awful year, and to try and fit in, I started smoking, just trying to fit in with the sort of cool crowd, to try and get people on my side. But I also started going to Brooklands Gospel Hall, and it was had a thing called the EBR, Every Boys Rally, and I started going to it. Now, first year was grand, second year was grand, third year the bullying really got bad, really got bad, where like they were taking my shoes, taking them off me, taking my school bag, throwing away my homeworks, everything you can think of. And there was a guy in EBR called Ali Davison. He was a couple of years older than me, but he was an absolute tank. He was like 6 feet and 6 feet wide, so nobody messed with him. And I remember him catching it on one day. I was walking past, there's a swimming pool in Dundonald Boys High, and we were walking past the swimming pool, and the two boys cornered me and started pushing me about and stuff. And Ali Davison came over and split them up. And I thought, oh, happy days, I've got Ali on my side here, this is going to be a turn. But actually, Ali turned around and punched me. Oh. And I went down, but it was sort of like, what just happened there? And Ali put his hand out, pulled me up and said, see you next time I see you getting bullied, I'm hitting you. And I was like, right, okay. So I was more afraid of Ali now than the two boys. So, well, I know it sounds cruel, but it worked. Because the next time the two boys, now they still beat me up, don't get me wrong, but I give them back just as much as they give me. And because I did that, it just stopped, the bullying stopped. And I think it wasn't so easy for them anymore. So yeah, that's when the training and all started. Yeah. It was like, right, I needed to start looking after myself.
Now, just before we go on either further in that line, of course you were brought up in a Christian family. Yeah. And your folks brought you to church and to Sunday school.
Yes.
How many Sunday schools did you miss?
None. None. I have a trophy in the house. I actually said to Ronda I should have brought it. There's a trophy up in the roof space somewhere. How long was it, Ronda? 10 years without missing a day at Sunday school. I even got my tonsils out on a Friday and was in Sunday school on the Sunday. So that's how much, I was sent to Sunday school. But never missed a day. Always went to the children's meetings. Always went to teen time when I was a teenager. I was sent along religiously Sunday morning, Sunday night. So yes, I had a good background.
Yes, and yet whenever you get into high school, that's when you started maybe to mix with the wrong crowd, you were telling me.
Yeah, I think I tried to fit in with the wrong crowd because of obviously being bullied and just trying to be cool, trying to fit in.
Yeah.
At that stage in life, it was sort of, I don't know if you all know anything about it, but there was a heavy metal scene, and then it went on to like a rave scene. And the rave scene came with a lot of drugs, the drugs were called acid and E-tablets and stuff like that. And they were very easily to get more than it was to go to an off license and get a drink. It was harder because you had to have ID but people were selling it on the side streets as for the drugs. So, and they were cheaper. I think for a few tins of beer, it was a few £, and you could get magic mushrooms in the field for nothing. You could go to Nutmeg, get Nutmeg for 5p in a herbal shop and mix it up. So the drugs were cheaper and easier to get. So yes, I started experimenting with drugs. And like everything, you think one will not do any harm, two's okay, next 3, 4, and then the next minute you're kind of addicted. You're just constantly looking for that next high.
We're talking about that, and just as a warning maybe to people, I mean, we were saying that whenever David had had the man murdered and a child died in the Psalm, in the Old Testament, that he later said in the Psalms, that God forgave the guilt of his sin. So there were still consequences. A child had died, a man had been murdered, and you were sharing with me that there perhaps have been consequences of that playing about with drugs as well.
Oh yes, big time. I know I think it's small drugs, but I would still get flashbacks even today. I would be lying in bed and feel like I'm floating up and stuff like that. I blame my memory on it. I blame my anxiety on it. I have a lot of mental problems. I don't know if most of you know me in this church. You'll see me tics. I have shakes. I have my eyebrows dance. You'll see all different sort of things. But I do blame that back to the day of the drugs and different scenarios that took me to as well.
Yeah. But of course, you're young, you're immortal. You think these things.
Oh yeah, invincible. Yeah.
And you got involved with this crowd. And your attitude changed, whether it was that
Big
thing,
time.
your whole attitude from being a young boy brought up in a Christian home.
Yeah.
Okay, you were bullied, you made a sort of a change of character there, but then maybe the drugs did that, and your attitude changed. Tell us about that.
It did. I started it was all about Neill. My life just became all about Neill. Neill and his next fix. Neill was the most important thing. So yes, I started getting cheeky. And my parents tried to guide me. It was mind your own business. And as a teenager, multiplied by about 10, I gave my mum a hard time. In fact, it got to the stage where actually one day I came in and I lifted my hand to hit my mum. And I think that was enough. Now my dad, he kind of knew about it, but my dad, he would have growled, he would have given you a stern look, but he never was like hit me or anything like that. He kind of brushed it under the carpet. My family, it's kind of old school as well, where you have to look good in front of everybody. Everybody has to look perfect and good, you know. And if it's anything that doesn't look good, it's brushed under the carpet and hidden. And I think that's what happened. But the final straw was me lifting my hand. And so it came to the stage where my mum said she couldn't look after me no more. She couldn't handle me no more. And I had to go and live with my aunt and uncle. Now, my aunt and uncle's not an aunt and uncle that we've just pulled out of a hat here. Mm-hmm. I grew up with my aunt and uncle. So I think there is a picture of them. I think I did show. Maybe. I
don't know the idea. Do you have a picture of you playing your least favourite sport?
Yes, I am a big football fan. Not. My dad was a big football fan. Right. So, yes, I got the football kits, but I had no interest in it, sadly. That's Is
that around the time you
yes, that's my uncle with the camera. I know it's not a very good photo.
Yeah.
But that is my uncle and my auntie and my cousin Sandra, and then this is my other cousin Trevor, who is pushing me into the water.
Right.
Yes.
So you went to Carrick because your mum just couldn't cope with you. You were uncontrollable, really. And so you lived with your aunt and uncle. You were 15 or 16, and you lived a good over half a year.
Yeah, it was about 68 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was even, well, school was
Did
involved
that
as well.
take you out of trouble?
Well, I don't know if any of us know Carrickfergus. No. It was kind of like out of the pot into the frying pan. Yes. Carrickfergus, it was full of sort of gangs back then. That's why I'm going to call it. I'm just going to call it gangs. And again, the drug scene was pretty big down there. And my cousins were sort of, they were very out there. So they were always out messing about, playing. They were very sporty, so they had a good crowd around them. I got down there. I was the new kid. I had to try and make an impression. So I got involved in sort of the wrong ones. And again, I got into the gangs, basically, doing the dirty work for the bigger gangs. I'm just going to leave it like that.
Yeah, and so it didn't help you. It maybe got you out of your
No, it got me
for a while, but
yeah, it made me worse.
yeah,
It made me really
in fact,
worse.
you got involved, and you told me you became stupidly crazy.
Yes, very, and put into certain situations that still replay in my mind this
Yes.
day. So,
So I mean, you're even. I think you told me breaking into shops and stuff. And,
yes, it broke into a few schools and shops and stuff just to feed the habit.
yeah,
all
so
to feed the habit.
you'd gone downhill even worse.
Yeah.
So let's move on a little bit, and because we mentioned earlier on the two schools amalgamated back in because you were in Carrick, you went to Downshire High, I think,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then you moved back to
Dundonald.
Dundonald.
Yes.
About this stage, of course, the schools have come together, and at some point you have met Ronda.
Yes.
Whenever that happened.
Well, as I say, I was in Carrick. I got in a bit too deep, and the police were involved. So it was basically bail out of Carrick, come back home. So I had to come back to Dundonald and met a couple of old friends who were in EBR. One of the guys called Stephen Doherty, and he was sort of like, "Look, there's an after eights thing. Do you want to come?" Blah blah blah. I was like, "Yeah, I'll go to the after eights." He says there's a few hot girls at it, so I was like, "Yeah, okay, definitely up for that." So it happened to be we were going to this church down near Belfast, the Branham Memorial, and we went in, and there was like a wee, I think it was a hatch, wasn't it? I don't think you were at a table. I think you were at a hatch, and she was serving tea, and I was sort of like, "Ooh, how you doing?" Inside, didn't say it outside. I wasn't that confident then, but inside I was like, "Ooh." So I actually did nudge my mate Steve. It's like, "Who's that? Who's she?" She says, "She's in your class in school." I was like, "Oh, right, okay." So yeah, so I was looking forward to going back to school then. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Let me see. I think I might have a couple of pictures of those early years, maybe.
Yes. That's me with her. Look, I've got her.
I thought that was Daniel. Yeah, that's you and Ronda, and there you are again. You seem to wave a lot at the camera.
I think that probably was, "Don't take a photo."
Yeah, so there you are there. Two of you. You look quite different than that, actually.
Nah, I've got my hair all cut. I had long hair in the other ones. Yeah.
So there you are, and so you met Ronda, and you started going to. Now, Ronda, she's a Christian.
She's a Christian, yes. Ronda was a Christian. She went to the Brana and asked me to come along. We got to school. She was in my art class, a few other class, RE was it or something? Yes, and we got talking, flirting, really, in school. In fact, I remember getting told off for sitting on my knee in art, if I remember correctly. Okay, but yes, so we got talking and flirting, and she was sort of like, "Look, there's a manifest happening in Belfast. Would you like to come along?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, why not? It's a date, yeah." So went into Belfast to get my new jeans. You have to get all dressed up for the date, but missed the bus on the way out. Yeah, so by the time we arrived, her bus had already left to go into Belfast, and she was already away with her friend. And so we were sort of like, what do we do? Do we just go and hang about and go and grab a few drinks, or do we go? And I was like, no, I really like that girl, you know, let's just grab another bus. So we went down, and there was crowds, like manifest must have been a big thing, because there was crowds down the street, and it was like, right, okay, we'll just get into the queue. And we got into the queue, and they fed us into the building. And lo and behold, we took a seat, and there was Ronda, the seat in front of me, right? Couldn't believe it. It was just like, wow, the size of that place, and Ronda was right there. So that was our start of our real dating, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we'll move on a little bit. Went to the Mama Fest, met her, and then she invited you to camp.
Yes, well, Ronda was quite adamant I had to go to church with her, which is a good thing. No, it was good. So Ronda's mum and dad used to pick me up, I think, down at the street corner in Cherry Hill, and then we used to go on to the church. So that was a good thing. And then there's a few camps came up. There's one at your church, which I'd never been to, and then there was one at my church coming up. So I went to Ronda's camp and had a really good time with all her friends and stuff like that. And then another camp came up, and I says, well, I enjoyed Ronda's camp, so I'll go to this one. And we went to this camp, and there was a guy speaking at this camp that was just different. When I was growing up in the church, it was like big preachers, you know, preachers that looked perfect, that looked like their whole lives were collected, they had everything under control, they were living the perfect life, you know. That's my thought. They seen the nice car, they came in the suit, and that's what I got. But at this camp, there's this guy speaking, and he was just in a tattered shirt and a pair of jeans, and he was telling about how he'd been in prison and how he got saved and the Lord had forgiven him. And that spoke to me that day. It just was like, the Lord actually forgave him, and he was in prison. Real. Yeah, and he had actually, well, I'm not going to say what he did in prison, but yeah, it was something very, very serious, and yet the Lord had forgiven him, and he was living for Jesus. And it just really spoke to me and opened my mind, and it was sort of like, it's like seeing the light, and I was like, yes, I want that, I need that forgiveness, because inside I was being eaten away, being eaten away.
Because you did, I maybe didn't point this out earlier on, folks, but you did believe in God.
Yes, I was grew up in God.
You sort of had that belief. And
yeah, even friends, like I actually bumped into him the other day in Tesco's. Evie was with me, Stuart Harris, and friends, after a few drinks, we had been out drinking, and I'd said, like, I never wanted to go home, so I was like, I'll walk you home. So I was walking him home, and he would have said, because he knew I went to church with my mum and dad, that's my upbringing, and he says, like, what is this church business you go to? And I was like, well, it's, you know, it's about God, and God created the earth. How could you not believe it? And we got into so many conversations about God without meaning to, if you know what I mean, without me trying to be a preacher or, you know, I was just explaining them what I thought, my personal thought about God, that I knew existed, when Jesus came and he died on the cross, and I believed all this. And yeah, and it turned out that actually he became a Christian through this, which I found out later on.
And we're going to jump forward to that. How did you find out later on that Stuart became a believer?
Well, I started in my working life. I started hunting Harlan Wolf. My brother was meant to meet me, and was meant to go in with him together. And he actually hit a dog on the way to work. And he was like, Neill, I can't do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know where to go. I don't know nothing about it. I was all relying on Michael to do this. What do I do? So I just turned up the doors and just walked through the gates. And there was Stuart. And all I seen was his face light up, because we'd been long friends. And he was just, Neill, and his arms went out. And he put his arm around me, walked me on to the ship. It was 2 drill ships we were working on. Walked me onto the ship. And it was like, this boy showed me the Lord. This boy showed me the Lord. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I actually did hang my head, but yeah, that's...
Yeah, because you weren't...
No, I wasn't following the Lord, no.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So just nipping back into that second camp where this man was speaking, and you said there was something just real about...
Something real about it. Now, I do believe I gave myself to the Lord that day. I believe in the Lord, I accept the Lord, I asked for forgiveness, and I asked Jesus into my heart, and I do believe I became a Christian on that day, but... There's a big but. It was kind of like a tick. It was like a burden lifted off my shoulders at the same time, but it was sort of like, that's that done. Yeah. I've got my life sorted now. My everlasting life is all sorted. I don't need to worry about it no more. But God was kind of then put on the shelf. That was done. Job done.
We talked about this, that whenever Jesus told us to go out and make disciples of all nations, you got saved, yes, but then...
There was no follow-up.
There was no discipling.
There's no discipling or nothing. It was just it just sort of, up here and then just started to decline again.
And that's maybe a common experience for some folks, you know.
Yeah.
We're so keen on them getting saved, and that is so critical. But we need to discipline or disciple people.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Teaching
and
is a big
nurture
thing.
them, yeah.
Teaching is a big thing.
So yeah, you said that. So anyway, you and Ronda then. I think I might have a wee picture. Is that Daniel there?
That's me.
Is that you?
That's me and my love for army stuff. Yes.
Yeah. With I think that's a general purpose machine gun boots.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, family and marriage.
Family and marriage. So
Look at that.
there we are. Look, babies.
Why do people? Why are you allowed to get married at 14?
I know. Well, believe it or not, I'm 22 there.
Yeah, right.
I'm 22.
Okay.
Just turned 22, but 22. Yeah. Yes, I've got the dates because, again, I'll get muddled up. I do know the dates, by the way. I'm not that bad, but I just, yeah. So 22nd of the 8th, 97, we got married. And we met in 92. So 5 years later, we got married. And all was rosy. We got a lovely wee house. I was working in England, coming home the year before, obviously, before we got married. We bought a wee bungalow in Newton Ards. I got a job in England, so I was working in nursing homes and then coming back every sort of 4 weekends or something like that. Spend a couple of days at home and then back over to England for a few weeks, just to get the house ready. And then,
Yeah, but you were fairly full on, and in England perhaps being away from home wasn't a good thing either.
wasn't a good thing. Obviously, there was no church
Yeah.
involved over there. There was no thought of church, to be honest with you. And again, you're with a crowd of guys that aren't believers, and we lived above a bar. That'll just explain it all. So yeah.
But then you moved house, and after a while went to Newton Ards, I think.
No, Newton Ards to Portavogie.
Oh right, that's what
Newton
it was.
Ards to
now,
Portavogie,
right, okay.
yeah.
You moved church then. You
Moved church.
went to Newton Ards Baptist for a while.
Newton Ards Baptist, yes. Ronda's mum and dad started going to Newton Ards Baptist, and we followed suit. Yeah, Klingons.
But you said things were rosy. They weren't really, in the sense that you hadn't gone on with the Lord.
No. Rosie on the outside.
Yes.
Rosie on the outside.
And then tragedy hit home.
Tragedy hit home. Yes, we lost our first baby. We tried to have a wee baby, and we lost the first one, which was very hard hitting, very devastating. We didn't get any help. There was no. I think it was nearly a year later. You got a phone call to say, "Are you okay?" I'm saying you, Ronda, got a phone. So that was the only help we actually got. You know, there was no. We didn't know. We were young. We were only,
hard.
we were babies ourselves, and losing a child, was a big impact. And I know it'd be an even bigger impact for Ronda, but me, it was a big impact. Yeah.
And then Ronda wasn't well.
No, Ronda. Well, that was when we had Daniel.
Oh yes.
Yes. So
let's just think about Daniel for a moment. Is he here?
He's there.
He is, right. Right, there's a young Daniel, isn't that right?
Well, that's Daniel and that's Evie. Sorry, I should have separated when I sent them to you. Yes. But Daniel is the top left. Yes, Daniel's born on the 14th of the 12th, 99. Didn't look. And yes, he was not a well baby. He was 6 weeks in that incubator, fighting for his life the first few weeks. He had a hole in his heart, his lungs had collapsed. There's numerous things wrong with him. So yes.
That was a trial too.
It was a big trial, yeah. I had to give up my job because when I asked for time off work, I was home, by the way, I wasn't working in England at this stage. I was home working on boilers and stuff like that in a wee small company, but they needed me in, and I was like, I need time off. My son's not well. I need to be up there to feed him, and they wouldn't give me time off. So I was like, you can keep your job. I'm away.
Yeah.
There's more important things. So yes, I was unemployed and looking after a sick baby. Well, we were looking after a sick baby, should I say. Taking all the glory.
And although you had, Ronda was a believer, you're a believer, you weren't really living for the Lord at this stage either.
I'll be honest with you. at that stage in my life, the Lord was just, yes, I believed in the Lord. Yes, I believed he died on the cross for me. I was not living for him. And if anybody asked for me, it was just to make myself look like a Christian, if you know what I mean. I wasn't, mindset on the Lord. I wasn't praying. I definitely wasn't reading my Bible.
And you really came to what you called a time of collapse.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
You're talking about later on.
Yeah.
Well, at this stage in my life, mental illness was a big factor for me. At the time, it wasn't talked about. Nobody talked about mental illness. I would have disappeared in the car parks. And when I was working, I would have skipped a week off work and went and sort of hid. Just because I couldn't face life. I couldn't face my own. I didn't want to be here. Didn't want to live. It was dark. I just felt useless. Obviously, the devil just whispers in your ear. And there came a stage in my own life where I did try to commit suicide. I've done it a couple of times, but the major one was one time I went up the Mourns. I took Ronda as a diabetic, and I took her insulin, 3 pens. I went up the Mourns, pitched a tent, told no one where I was going, left the keys in the car, hiked into a wee forest and injected 3 insulin pens in me and also a lot of tablets, hoping that I would not wake up. But God had different plans, and all I remember is walking down off the Mourns naked. Yeah, embarrassing as that is. And another flashback is under somebody's tap in their house, drinking water from an outside tap. And then back into Belfast. I don't know why I survived 3 insulin pens and all the medication, but God must have had a plan for me. And I'm hoping maybe even tonight, his plan is that you will hear me tonight and realise how amazing God is. Because all this background, all this, badness, and I am one of the worst, and still am. I still sin. But God's a forgiving God, and he's a loving God, and an amazing God. And he died on that cross for us, and it's my favourite verse. Can I read it now? Is that okay? Yeah. It's Romans 5. You probably all know this anyway, but it's Romans 5 and 8. But it's in amongst a few verses, so I'm going to read from verse 6. For when we were still without strength, in due time, Christ died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet perhaps for a good man someone wouldn't even dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love towards us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. That blew my mind. That's what made me come back to the Lord. Yeah. I had heard that verse over and over, and I just glanced over it, never dwelled on it. And one day, driving in the car, after all the trouble I'd caused, my marriage had broke down at one stage. I'd tried to kill myself. I'd let my kids down. And that verse was just a light. It was like excuse this. It's just a bright shining light. And one thing about the light, one thing about the darkness, it makes you appreciate the light. It makes the light even brighter. And I needed the light. And God just revealed himself, that he was always there. And I can tell you now, once I became a Christian, I can look back and see moments where God never left me. It sent people to question me, to question my faith, to question different things. I could be here all night to tell you all the wee things that come to mind, but God never left me, and he kept whispering in my ear. And even in those darkest times, and I tried to be alone and tried to handle it myself, I couldn't, and God was there. And people say, you need to talk to someone. Whenever you've got mental problems, you need to talk to somebody that's maybe been in the same situation, whether it be mental or any situation you're going through. But believe me, God's been there. God knows what you're going through. God's been through it. His son was beaten like no man had been beaten before. His son sacrificed his life willingly. Not because he had to or was forced to, willingly on that cross. He knows what we're going through, and he's there. So, talk to him.
You know, he's so gracious, so kind. We sometimes think of God maybe as a big boss, but he's so kind. And yeah, there's lots of things we could share with the group with the church tonight that we did talk about. But I think we'll move on a little bit to where you moved down this direction.
Yes.
And your children were going to Ballyhalbert Primary School.
Yes, my children were going to. And
you had a conversation at school gates.
Yes, with a certain lady that's here tonight, actually, Monica. So she bumped into me at school. I think our children were playing together and going to the same class. And Monica said, look, I go to a wee church around the corner. You're very welcome to come and join us. And there's a wee Sunday school. You should send Evie. And I left, as you do. Yeah, of course, yeah. But no real mindset of doing so, as people do. But I went home and I actually thought about it. I was sort of like, actually, you know, there was me, 10 years of Sunday school, never missed a day. Never went to Sunday morning, Sunday night, and yet I'm not sending my own kids. What's going on, Neill? So I had a conversation with Ronda. And Ronda said, yeah, why not? So we sent Evie along to Sunday school, and here we are. Haven't left. You're stuck here. You're stuck with us.
And of course, it's lovely that you're fully involved now and help working in a church with youth and different things, and that's a wonderful thing. Actually, there was a night at Watoto in Bangor. Yes. And we were there. Drew was there, and Ellen and Gillian, and a few of us were there that night. Of course, we didn't know you then, but you'd have been there that night too. Watoto, the African Children's Choir.
Yeah.
And I think that was a powerful night for you as well.
It really was. There was a few powerful nights. There was there was a concert that I was invited to by friends, and the Lord just made me called me, and I actually went up to the front. Now, I didn't give myself to the Lord then, but I just felt led to the front, and just guilt. The guilt was a big thing for me. Still is a big thing for me. I know the Lord says, but it's easier to it's easy to say we're forgiven. And I know we truly are forgiven, but sometimes our inner and the devil just whispers, "Are you really?" And we have to just keep praying and saying, "Yes, I know God's forgiven me. In fact, I know Jesus is standing on the throne, telling the Lord, look at me. He's saved. He's covered in my blood."
So I think we have a couple of final pictures. This is Daniel and Evie.
That's Daniel and Evie.
All proud to have a new wee sister. And that's back again too. And there they are growing up. And was that you cut the hair of Daniel?
Yes, I had a free bowl.
And there's isn't that Evie?
Yes, that's Evie.
There she is. And there they are riding their bikes. And your family's growing up, and so we have a couple of later pictures.
That's me and my siblings. That's my sister in the middle and my brother. I'm obviously the short one.
And there's the family.
That's my whole family. I was at a wedding just before my dad passed away.
Yeah. And this is you and if anybody can spot them. That's
my hobby.
That's your hobby.
I like to run around with toy guns, shooting people.
Like a softer big man, you'd hard to meet. Like, I doubt if he would shoot at mouse, anyway. And there we go. There's your family. And Neill, it's been lovely just to chat. And now I know there's so much more. You don't really know somebody. Well, even people you're friendly with until you start to open up some things. But there's a story of a life, and although you had got saved and slipped away, the Lord never left it. Doesn't He promise us that? Doesn't He? He does
indeed. He does indeed, and it's amazing. And it's amazing how much He changes us.
Yes.
As if we actually devote our lives to Him and read the Bible and pray to Him and talk to Him and want to have that friendship with Him. He changes us. Like I've said this many times, even though I was doing all these crazy, stupid things, I was always sort of one that never was on show. Never, I wouldn't have been up here. Definitely, for love nor money, I wouldn't have been up here talking to people. And I still, even when I come into church, you'll see I always sit in a corner. I'm a corner guy. I'm a backseat guy. I'm not a front row guy. But God changes us, and even somebody like me, I'm not a smart guy. As you can see, as you can tell, I messed up school. I don't have any fancy exams or anything like that. I have nothing to give the Lord but one thing, and it's time. And that's all I give the Lord. And thankfully, the Lord uses it. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it just be opening up the hall or coming along and just being a person that's in the background, just if there's numbers needed, I'll do it. I'll do it. If it makes sandwiches, I'll do it. It's, Lord, give me time, and I'm willing to use it. Yeah. God
bless you. And there's folks watching online as well. And maybe just a final word to us all here, and maybe folks who are watching online. If you had a final sentence you had to give for advice or something important to say, what would it be?
Don't be, I'm going to be really completely blunt, don't be stupid. Don't brush this under the carpet and think I've many years ahead of me or whatever. If you're thinking about it, really think about it. Really read scripture, talk to somebody about it. Turn to the Lord today, because without him, life is just a mess. It really is. And I know we all think we can handle it. We can't. God wants the best life for us. And this tells us how to live the best life and what we need in our lives. I know sometimes people think, oh, it's a rule book. Oh, it's goody. No, God knows what we need. And that's why he has it down here in black and white, how to lead our lives. And it gives us the best life. And if you are struggling with mental health, don't do it alone. Turn to God. Because as I said before, he knows. You don't even have to kid him. Like somebody will say to you, you going, oh yeah, I'm fine. He already knows you're not fine. You know, so you can't kid him. Be open and honest with him. Pray to him. Just pray tonight that you will realise how much God loves you. And even though what a mess we all can be, that he still loves you, that he sent his son from heaven, the creator of the earth, came down to earth amongst us sinful people to die on the cross for us. That's amazing? Like, that's amazing. He could have wiped us out, but he chose not to. He, out of love, he wanted to redeem us. An amazing Redeemer.
Thank you, Neill. Thank you, Neill Boreland. And we're going to hand over now to Drew, who's going to just close off for us. Thanks, Drew.